Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing optional products that you can buy to help you out on your adventures. Welcome to True Strike.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today is a bit of a buyer's guide episode. We're going to be talking about some of the optional products that you can buy to enhance your experience while playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're also going to be including links to a lot of these products we talk about today, so you can go grab them if you think they sound kind of cool and want to include them in your stuff.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and after we get all this done, we'll make a listing up on our Instagram. That is True Strike Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I'll send out a tweet about it. As well as on Instagram, there will be a post and probably a link on the, homepage for us and stuff like that. Either way, we'll have a link to an Amazon list that will be publicly available for you to go through and purchase up if you'd like most of the things we talk about today. And yeah, so like Rich said, this is basically our, buyer's guide. Hopefully next time you're on, Flying Delta, you'll pull up your Sky Mall catalog and you're going to see us offering up all these fun Dungeons & Dragons goodies. That's the game plan here, really.
Yeah, and like you said in the intro, these are optional things. So you really don't have to buy a lot to play Dungeons and Dragons. And we talked about this in a past episode too. Really the only thing that you actually should be buying and the only thing that you really need is a core book set. And that really doesn't have to be even every player. That can just be the person that's going to run the game. Outside of that, Dungeons and Dragons, Theater of the Mind, all that good fun stuff, it can be a very bare bones experience. You don't have to buy any of these products by any means. So a lot of these, like we said, are optional. But if you do want to buy some stuff, these are things that can help your experience just be a little bit better or different, depending on how you're approaching things.
Yeah, even a step back from that, if you really, really just want to peek into the door but not put any kind of financial commitment, D&D Beyond has the basic rules available for free just for making an account. You can download the book on the app or pull it up on the website under your resources and stuff like that and check out the game without dumping in any money at all.
Yeah, so super budget. You download that PDF. You steal a couple sheets of paper from class or from your work. And
we don't condone thievery.
A couple pencils and paper. You borrow them. You bring them back. And you can play Dungeons & Dragons completely monetary free.
Yeah. Using a tool like D&D Beyond, you can even use their digital dice roller. And there's your digital dice, and everybody can do that. And you're, for real, you're good to go right there. But that out of the way, some of the physical goodies, because that's why we're all here, like Richard mentioned, the core rule books. You're going to want to pick these up. I think we're going to focus on first the players. And, Player's Handbook. Really? Any other books?
I mean, you don't have to as a player. But, I mean, it's kind of like the natural progression we talk about things is a lot of players end up running games. So if you think that you're even going to have an inkling of doing that in the future, the core rulebook set, right? So the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide as a set is a really cool piece to have. So even if you are just a player right now, if you think you have any interest of possibly expanding past that, it might be worth the investment to go past the $20 for the Player's Handbook and get something like the core rulebook set, which I think runs around $65, $70, depending on when and where you buy it.
Sure, and that's going to come with your Dungeon Master screen as well.
Yeah. And
a nice little well put together kit. I guess, yeah, if you're going to go ahead and buy the one book anyway, just buy them all in a nice little set.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, ultimately you don't have to have that. As a player, just having your player's handbook is really kind of all you need, honestly.
You've got your rules in there. You've got your different species, and your base classes, weapons, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you could purchase supplemental books like Tasha's and stuff like that if you wanted other options, but that's all optional.
Yeah, and it's all optional. And like we keep saying, these, are not things that you have to have. But it is kind of interesting to have your own copy of the player's handbook, because you're not always going to be in a situation where, if you're playing with your friend group, that if you wanted to, say, look something up for your own knowledge, just because you want to familiarize yourself with a specific set of rules or how mechanics work, and you don't want to bother the group with finding this out, or don't want to bother your DM with, minutia of questions and everything like that, it's nice to have that kind of reference that you can just grab anytime that you want to look at. And this is physical version or digital version in D&D Beyond. You can have it on your phone and you can reference it that way. So it's just a neat tool to have, even though it's not really a requirement. It's nice to have to be able to reference that stuff at your convenience.
Yeah, and the physical book does give you a little bit of clout. You have it up on your bookshelf so people know walking in that this guy, this person plays D&D.
Yeah.
They're a real player.
Or if you're looking for a game, you can just post up at your friendly local game store, or like a Barnes and Nobles with the book. Yeah, just have it open, and then as people walk by, you casually just kind of lift it up so they can see it's a player's handbook, and then they know you're a player.
And even
looking for a game.
Even better, you buy the whole core set, right? You sit on one side of the table, you open up your player's handbook in front of you, and you have your other supplies. And on the other end of the table, you set up the DM screen with the monster manual.
It's like the old the box with the string and the carrots. Yeah. You're just like, oh, you sat there. You're my DM now.
I got him.
I got him. I'm really interested to see this game you're going to present to me right now. Please build me a world.
I mean, Richard, if you walked into Mega Comics or Browncoats and there was a DM screen there, and after a while you notice, weird, nobody's sitting there, and you're like, hey, you guys running a game? And they're like, oh, it's just there for anybody. Would you not sit down and take a crack at it?
I can totally just casually see myself sitting down and be like, you wake up in an unfamiliar location, a tavern that you can't quite remember how you got here. Just to see what they would say. Maybe they'll go with it. And they're like, oh, this is great. They pull out their dice.
Yeah.
And they're just ready to go. Yeah, what do I roll? Speaking of which, what do I roll? The next thing as a player.
Yeah, what are these things?
Get some math rocks.
Dice? What does that mean?
Dice, you got to get yourself a good set of dice. That is a subjective statement.
But Richard, I want ducks in my dice.
Yeah.
Is that going to throw off my roll?
It depends on who you ask.
But the numbers are all sequential.
Ducks in those dice.
Can I roll this?
They make people very angry sometimes. Inclusions are dangerous.
Ooh, where do you sit on the fence? What's worse, inclusions or spin down?
Ooh. Okay, spin down.
Yeah.
Spin down is worse.
The numbers are too close for
you.
Yeah,
the numbers
doesn't
are too
feel
close
random
for me.
enough.
It doesn't feel random enough. Yeah. Inclusions, I get the argument. Most inclusions are resin-based, which is very similar to the same resin as the dice that are made of. Paint notwithstanding. Is it really going to affect your dice? I don't think so. I don't think it affects it in a meaningful way.
But gosh dang it, if the 20 and 19 are close to each other.
That's heresy. Get that Magic the Gathering crap out of here. I don't want spin downs anywhere near my table.
I gotta buy you some spin downs the next time I get you something.
But yes, digital dice. You mentioned earlier in D&D Beyond. That's cool, and you can totally do that. But there are so many options for dice out there, and it can be as dirt cheap as you want up to as expensive as you want. I literally have dice in my collection that cost a nickel a piece out of essentially a cup scoop at a game store, versus a set of single dice that are all a fancy color that cost me well over $100. So yeah, you can go any way you want when it comes to dice. But a lot of people like to have dice for their specific characters. So that's a good thing. If you really want to get into it, you can try and match dice to what your character might like.
And that is a fun one. And that is where my fall into a pit full of dice began.
Yeah.
Was I had a set that literally came with a Dungeons & Dragons starter set, the red and white basic dice. And I'm like, wow, it'd be really cool to have some orangey ones, kind of to match, my coppery dragonborn. And then, oh, look, these Dispel dice for $75 for one set are pretty nice. Oh, these Kickstarter for these game-themed ones are pretty cool. Oh, what about these and these and these? And now I literally don't run enough games in a year to
use all of the
every dice if I rolled them all once.
Yeah. So it is a slippery slope to, becoming a dice goblin.
I literally have potion bottles up on the shelf full of dice that have never rolled and never will roll.
Yeah. There's also one that's about the size of a softball. So that's a quite
that
a
one
large
we
die.
have rolled.
Yeah. But yeah, dice are very cool. So if you want to, you can go buy something cheap from your local game store. You can buy something expensive from an actual bespoke dice maker on Etsy or some other part of the internet. And there's a lot of really cool misfit dice companies out there. And actually, I almost bought a new set yesterday.
It's hard not to.
Because I was in my local game store, and right up there at the front, they had these little blind bags of misfit minis. For $9, you get 3 full sets of mini dice. For $9?
Whoa.
I had 2 of them in my hand, walking towards the checkout with my fancy Epic Encounters box that I was buying, and then I looked at how much money, and I was like, "Do you need these dice? Do you need 6 sets of mini dice?"
I don't know where you found the strength inside you to put those down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, one of them was yours. So
see, even this hurts more now.
I know. you just learned about the dice that you've been denied.
No.
But yeah, there's a lot of options. You don't have to go expensive. You can get some good dice. But having a nice set of dice for your characters adds a lot to the experience.
Yeah, but don't the expensive ones roll better?
Yeah, they do. They really do. And having a dice
sharp
tray,
edges.
a dice tray is also important.
Oh my gosh, I have gotten spoiled to the point where I hate rolling upon a bare table. I feel like a filthy commoner.
Wait, it doesn't count.
Yeah, if
dice it's not in the tray, the roll doesn't count.
And which is a strange rule that we enforce because I believe the only 2 at the table that roll in the tray are you and I.
Yes.
No one else does
No one else does
But
this.
for you and me,
yeah.
if it bounces out of the tray,
it doesn't count.
Bad dice doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Not 20, put it back.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Nope. You gotta do
Everyone else, they're just on the table and we're like, okay, yeah.
Like savages.
Yeah. I don't know. Ugh.
But yeah, a nice dice tray. Depends on how you want to go. They have collapsible dice trays, the button-up leathery ones. They
Those
have
are
3D
very
printed
convenient.
ones. There's wooden ones that also double as dice holders if you want to get real fancy with your wormwood trays. So there's a lot of different options out there as far as dice trays and dice combinations. When it comes to trays, the material makes a difference a lot of times because you get that nice satisfying sound. So like if you roll in a plastic dice tray like the one that I bring with me, kind of a plasticky nothing sound, doesn't sound that great. But then you go out and you buy a wormwood tray. Oh, that sound, it's just beautiful. It's just, you get an experience, right? And I know you've heard that tray before because we used it in the last gasp.
Yes. Which a lot of you have watched. So thanks for that.
Yeah. So yeah, dice and a dice tray. That's a cool thing that doesn't add literally much of anything to the actual experience other than your own personal feeling of rolling a nice hard die into a tray.
Look, y'all, if you can't afford to go spend $400 buying a tray and wormwood, which I totally understand, go to your local Walmart or craft store. Buy a all wooden photo frame, and then you can put a craft felt liner on the bottom of it, like one of those sheets that cost literally 10 cents, and you can glue that onto the bottom of it, and you get that exact same sound, and you can stain it if you wished, make it look pretty, whatever. It is a totally fully functional dice tray that you spent $3 on.
Yeah, you don't have to go crazy expensive.
No,
Same thing with the dice. You don't have to go crazy expensive.
And if you're a DM, you can get those and customize, make one for each of your players and get a felt to match their, characters or whatever. You can make this happen for not a lot of money.
I have custom made a dice tray for a DM before.
See?
Yeah, made it with a photograph. It was beautiful. I don't know if he's ever used it. Garrett. I really hope he has.
I hope that's his go-to dice tray.
In my dreams it is.
I know he had the $250 ebony wormwood big dice tray or whatever. I hope he threw that one away.
Yes.
And only uses the one you made because that was one of the coolest dice trays I've ever seen in my life.
I hope so.
And the idea that it went to someone that might not use it hurts my heart.
It's probably in a landfill somewhere.
It'd be so sad.
Yeah. But yeah, so dice and dice tray, cool thing to have. The next thing on here is something that I think is very important, and I wouldn't go to a game without it.
Because you're a good player.
That is a journal or a notebook, and this is not something expensive at all. You can literally use anything: a spiral-bound notebook, legal pad. It could be Post-it notes. Just have something that you can take notes.
You can use the Notes app in your smart device.
Yeah, you could use that. I actually use the Notes app on my iPad a lot of times to take notes, depending on the game. Sometimes in other games I'll use pencil and paper. But having a journal and a notebook is very, very cool. It allows you to keep track of the games in a much more linear fashion without having to try and remember details. It makes you a better player. It just does, yeah.
Now, even, I know this is the player's guide. For Dungeon Master, I also have a spiral-bound notebook that is just set aside for the game I am running. So I have one right now with its own cover and everything for Curse of Strahd, and I am keeping track of all the battles, the health of the monsters and the party and stuff like that, but also jotting down notes for what happened in that session so I can refer back to it. Or if there was anything specific that came up, like perhaps there was an adorable creature that was sacrificed by the party and I didn't expect that to happen. And, I'm going to mark a note of this because maybe it'll come back later. Yeah. It's just, like he said, this is extremely valuable for something so cheap. You might actually have these lying around your house.
Yeah, I mean, you might already have this just laying around. And if you want to get super fancy, you totally can. There are tons of Etsy sellers and even some, Amazon items that are fantasy style journals that you can buy to actually, kind of have a little bit more of a homey vibe to your games. And in fact, when I was at my local game store the other night, almost buying those sets of dice, I noticed that they are actually carrying Dungeons and Dragons journals in the store, and they vary in sizes. They have pocket journals that are like maybe 2.5 inches by 3 inches tall with actual metal clasps that hold them shut, as well as like full-size ones that are about the size of a paperback book, and some of them like a hardbound book, and they range in price from $7.99 for the cheapest ones up to I think about $20 for the bigger ones. And they're designed in a way to where they look rough. I mean, they actually look like a journal that a fantasy character would have knocking around in their rucksack, which is just a really cool little thing. And I'm probably going to end up buying one for my Curse of Strahd character because I wanted to start taking notes in a little bit of a different way during this campaign. So don't be surprised if you see me at the table with a weird looking leather bound book.
It's funny how similar you and I are sometimes, because in my Amazon cart right now, I have a dark brown aged leather bound book with blank pages that I was going to get as my new notebook.
Yep.
Now, because this is a Dungeons & Dragons podcast, I am going to shout out 1985 Games, who does sell a player's version and a DM version of a notebook called Dungeon Notes. This one's specifically for the players called Heroes Notes, and it is a 5e player's journal. Inside, you find 64 pages, including pages for punching in the information for your character sheet. And I mean, it's got everything from how much currency you have, your gold, copper, your silver, your platinum. You notice it left out the one that doesn't really exist. It's got your areas for your features and your spellcasting table, and what weapons you have and their features, and then blank pages to add in other things and items and your actions. And it's legitimately, you could build out your entire character in this notebook and reference the front part of it for any of your roles, and then flip to the back view all the way to the back of the book for all of your notes you're keeping track, and have all of it in one nice little neat place.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
It is nice. I have a couple of them here in the studio. And yeah, they're great quality. For a 3-pack, they're $24. You get to pick black, blue, green, orange, or yellow. Definitely a premium. We're speaking, what is that, $9? No. I can't math right now. $8?
$8 a book-ish.
We're talking $8, a book here, just for keeping your Dungeons & Dragons notes. But if it's something, if it comes to 3 of these, and if you're going to use one of these per campaign, These campaigns last years. I mean,
yeah, and having a nice notebook
convenience
is super convenient. Yeah, and it helps you keep track of your game too that you're in, because if you're keeping good notes, you definitely are going to be more on track with the story.
Yeah.
The more notes you keep, the better you're going to be in that pocket of that DM, because DMs love a note keeper. But also, like I said, it keeps you in the world, and it's a lot easier as a player. I know this, to be able to look at my notes and be able to reference something. There's been many times where I've been in a game where I would not have remembered a character's name had I not written it down previously.
Yeah.
And it's something that came up like 4 episodes later, and the same NPC is there. And the only reason why I know their name is because I wrote it down 4 episodes ago. So yeah, notebook and a journal, or notebook or a journal, really great, inexpensive tool that really enhances the game overall as a player.
Take notes, please. Your dungeon master will thank you.
They'll love you.
Well,
last thing on the list for players, at least that I had, unless you have something else after we talk about it, is a character mini. And now this one is 100% optional. Is it something that I have done for literally every character that I have made? Yes, it is. Even characters that I haven't even played yet. I even made a miniature of a character that you introduced as a statue. So I made a statue version.
It's right over there.
Of my character. Just because I wanted to. So yeah, character minis. Now there's a couple different ways that you can approach character mini, because there are companies like WizKids, which makes pre-painted miniatures, and they make so many of them that if you are playing, the Dragonborn monk, it already exists. Does it hit your exact mental image of what a Dragonborn monk is? Probably not, but it's close enough, and it's affordable. They do pre-painted and they do unpainted miniatures. So that's one way of doing things. There's also a ton of companies out there that make standees. So the 2D versions, right? So the acrylic standees that are incredibly high detail. And those are quite affordable too. They're actually more affordable than minis in some cases. And in fact, a lot of people can make these at home by buying stuff like vellum at Michael's, and you can print out artwork that is wink wink AI generated or is something that is custom drawn by somebody that did like a full body picture or something like that. You
or
can
yourself.
actually
Maybe
print that out. Yeah, maybe
profound.
you drew it yourself. Yeah, you can print out your own standee like on a 2D and actually use that on your thing. And then you have the other type of printing, so 3D printing. So you can actually have models 3D printed, and you can go and design these things. So Hero Forge is something that I use on the regular to design my characters, but there's also Eldritch Foundry and Desktop Hero, which is now known as Titan Craft, which are all websites that you can go to and create characters. I've created characters on all of these platforms, and they range in price from about $3 up to about $20, depending on which site you use and how much accessories.
For the STL file?
For an STL file, yeah. And then a lot of these also have print services. So like Hero Forge, you can download an STL file when they're on sale for like about $4. When they're not on sale, about $8. Or you can pay them $24 and they'll just ship you a printed miniature. The more you pay, the better quality miniature you get. You can get pre-painted stuff that's like, $60. You can get bronze statue versions of your things for like $80, $90. So you can do different options. But if you know somebody with a printer, you can just download your STL file and have somebody print it for you. Or you can send that to somebody that runs a print farm that can print it for you, and then you just pay them for their services.
Now, you did mention these like 2-dimensional like standee versions that you can make yourself. Now, I know Hero Forge offers a service where you can have that made by them.
Oh, yeah, they do standees now, too.
Yes,
yeah.
They do standees, and it is, I don't remember the exact price, but I know it's less than the 3D printed version. And they'll print you a double-sided, front and back. You actually make your miniature in 3D, and then you position it like you have a camera. And depending on the angle, that's the front. And then whatever the exact opposite of that pose would be the back, that's what you get on the other side of the 2-dimensional standee. And that's really cool.
Which is really cool.
And it's full color. And I have in my cart, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet, one for every character I've ever played. Because I want to get them and just display them up in here. The full color is what gets it for me.
Yeah, having a full color paint job of your miniature is super cool, yeah. Now, they do full colored paint jobs of the actual 3D miniature.
Well, on Hero Forge, it's not painted.
It's
printed.
You can do painted ones, though. Or no, it's printed in color. That's right,
yes,
not painted.
It's printed in color.
In color. Yeah, which uses a technique that is one of the older versions of 3D printing.
I'll say the print jobs look a little fuzzy.
Yeah, and that's because of the tech. The tech is pretty old. Now there is newer tech on the horizon that is unbelievable in being able to print color prints, but Hero Forge and Eldritch Foundry and Desktop Hero and stuff like that, they're still using the old technology. So what you get is a functional but not exactly pretty miniature. But yeah, miniatures, like I said, they're not really required by almost any DM for any game, I would say. I've never been in a game where I was required to have a miniature of my character.
I think the big thing is are you guys playing Theater of the Mind primarily or using battle maps? If you're using battle maps, either your Dungeon Master has a mini for you, whether it's your character or not. It might be a dice, it might be a square on the ground, it might be a bottle cap with a number written in it or a color. Something to mark your location. But if you take the initiative to have your miniature made in the design you want, that also is a nice little nudge for the other players to do it.
Yeah.
And then it just ends up being a really cool experience where you're all playing you have miniatures for everyone's character. And it immerses you all in the world that much more.
Yeah. It just feels cool to hold a miniature version of the character that you portray on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Feel free to paint it, not paint it, prime it, and then, prime it in black and then never actually paint it. Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do.
As far as other things, really, for a player, depending how you want to go with this, like I said, you don't need it. I am such a sucker for D&D Beyond. With it, it's never been easier. A tablet is huge because all of these things... Your dice, if you're cool with digital dice, you don't care about the tick of a cool, wormwood, and you want to take notes on the tablet, you have your character sheet up on the tablet. You can have all of these things on your tablet. And a nice little tablet with a stand that you can set up on the table. Like I said, a little one so it's not taking up a whole lot of real estate. Boom, that's your best friend. It's everything all in one little spot. Completely optional.
Yeah.
That tablet is probably more money than you going out and just buying all of the other things recommended together. But it's incredibly convenient.
Yeah, it can be very convenient, yeah.
The issue is when you're people like me and Richard and you've got the tablet, but then you also still have all the other things.
Yeah, no, that's my thing is I have the tablet. I'm using it to reference my character sheet. I'm still rolling like real dice in a tray.
There's no better feeling than like pre-rolling the dice around in your palm, waiting on that call or all right, I'm on deck. The wizard just took a big hit, and I have to bring this monster down. I got to warm this baby up. All right, let's go. 6.
Well, and if you end up turning into a dice goblin, you'll know what I say when I say you have your saving throw die. You have your you have your attack die. You have your check die. I mean, you have dice that have their strong points. You know what I mean? Yeah, that are good at certain things, and then you have the dice that spends its entire time in the jail in the corner.
Yeah, I've got the jail up on the shelf, and my wife actually bought me a dunce cap for dice as well that don't necessarily deserve to go to jail, but they need to reform a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much sums up per players. So Dungeon Masters, what do we need?
Well, first off, your core rule books.
Yeah, remember that 3-book set we talked about before? It's your best friend.
This is the time where it's less of a suggestion and more of a you should actually really just do this.
Yeah.
It's going to save you money. Probably just knock them all out in one bundle, and you're going to need all of them anyway.
Yep, you're going to use them all.
It comes with the screen, and they're the fancy versions. You usually got depending on the bundle you get, you've either got an alternate cover or at least like a holographic, like sheen to the covers. So it's like, ooh, you got them fancy covers. That you fancy one of them fancy DMs I hear about.
Nice. And everybody can use another DM screen.
Yeah, you're one of them Matt Mulligans or whatever I hear about on the TV. So, yeah, we've talked about these already.
Yep, the core sets, we've talked about them a bunch of times. You can buy the physical if you really, really want that. If you don't want a physical set, you can go digital. If you're running laptops and computers and tablets, you can have the digital set.
If you're going digital, really the only recommendation we have would be to go to dndbeyond.com, go to the marketplace, and purchase the Legendary Bundle.
Oh, God.
It's honestly the only right move you can make. Just sell your car.
The second mortgage on your house.
Yeah.
Get the legendary bundle.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes you catch it on sale like I did, and you save an insane amount of money.
You save dollars. Dollars and dollars you save.
Actually, it was hundreds. I saved actually hundreds of dollars on that bundle because of that deal. And I don't know if that deal was supposed to cover that bundle, but it did. You get really lucky, like one of our friends, and just have it given to you.
Yeah, have it gifted to you. Yeah.
Because, that's awesome. And if you purchase that bundle, you get a permanent, I believe it's 15% discount on all future purchases from D&D Beyond for dice. Or sorry, for rule books, for the books going forward.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we've talked about this in the past as well, because I think it was the D&D Direct. One of the things that they've spoke about was digital versus physical. And there's a good chance that in the very near future, when you buy your physical versions of these books, you're going to get the digital as well.
Oh, yes. They've said that they're trying to nail down exactly how they're going to do it. Right now, the way to do it is on these pre-order versions of the books. When you order the book, you get the digital and physical bundle for $10 off what it would cost buying them separately.
Yeah.
And then after they release, they go to full price. Now, speaking of full price, as they've announced that physical books going forward, at least the new ones coming out, the price is actually increasing. And that's because of the state of the world and the cost of materials and stuff like that. And they haven't actually raised the price of these books in many years. The digital ones are going to remain the same. They said for the foreseeable future, at least. They have no plans on increasing. If they do increase them at some point, they do. But for now, they're not.
Yeah.
Which just adds even more value in these digital books.
Yep. So, yeah, if you don't mind digital collection, it's kind of the way to go right now.
But
there is something to be said about having a library of books at your disposal.
Oh, yeah. Especially those core ones.
Yeah.
Especially to be able to pull it out and pass it around the table if needed. Plus, it comes with that screen.
Yeah. That's screen.
All right.
How many screens you got right now?
Right now, I could go get a count, but I could guess, and it's probably like 9.
But yeah, you don't need any more screens. What you need is more dice.
Dice.
Dice. So yeah, we already talked about dice for the player end.
Man, where am I going to put them?
Dice for the DM end. The reason why I said dice is because having extra dice as a DM is actually super helpful.
Yes.
Because you're going to have a player who's going to show up and they're going to forget their dice.
You actually, you beat me to it. Having multiple sets as a DM makes sense. You're not just matching to your character. You're matching or you have dice out of necessity. Maybe you have friends come over and you're going to introduce them to D&D, or maybe no one brought dice. And you're supplying for, you're not only yourself, but the whole table. And, maybe you've got 2 sets, one for you and one for them. But maybe you want to be able to hand each of them their own sets so they're not all just passing around. Maybe you need to have a couple sets on your side so you can, when your dragon unleashes a fiery, wasteland upon your foes, the players, and you need a bajillion dice to roll so they can, audibly hear the pain incoming. You need the dice to do that. You don't want to roll the same dice over and over and over again.
Gotta have something to roll.
You just want to take 2 handfuls and just dump it into your tray. Or multiple dice for your advantage, disadvantage, everything like that. It's okay. Let's be honest. Really, honestly, what you're doing here is you have all the dice you ever need. You've had all the dice you've ever need. You've had them for a long time, but you just saw a really pretty set on Twitter. And whether that's being sold a la carte off a website or maybe it's a Kickstarter, you got to get those dice. I mean, you can't let those go. They're too pretty. You got to get them.
You might want them.
You really need them. What if those are the dice? Those are the dice you're going to roll. Maybe you get them in the mail and you never roll them ever. Maybe they don't come. They're not actually as good as looking as you thought they were going to be. Maybe they're kind of ugly. That happens every once in a while. That's the risk you take. But, what if you didn't get those dice and, missed out because they were really nice? Dice.
Dice.
Yeah, there's also good for dungeon masters, especially starting out, the starter sets. Those are good for not only new DMs, but introducing new players. because they're built in mind with modules, mini modules for introducing dungeon masters and players to the game of Dungeons & Dragons. So the, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle is a great example. I believe that's the newest D&D 5e starter set out there.
Yep.
That's a good one to pick up, and it's very cheap, and you can find it everywhere. Like Target has it.
Yeah, Target has it. You can buy it in any bookstores. Your local game store is definitely going to have it. I think it's actually like $20 for the set.
Yeah, I believe I picked mine up at Target for $15.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredibly easy to find. This is the game that, there's the Lost Mines of Fendelver, and
classic.
Those of us who have, played that and moved on, this is the one for the current generation.
Yeah, and actually when I was, trying to remember the starter sets, the Mines was the very first one that came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm like, wait, we can do one better. Stormwreck Isle is out now, and it does look really, really interesting. And the price point is right, and what you get on it is great. I think it's a really good starter for anybody who wants to get into D&D, and it's not expensive.
I am really interested, though, with that expansion to the whole, Fendelver campaign coming out later this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be neat.
That's going to be cool.
I'm waiting to see whether it actually, now that Dragon Stormwreck Isle is the starter set, if that module is going to start off with the previous starter adventure and then just continue. Because I believe it's like levels 1 through 12.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so if it's starting at level 1, does it just include that beginning and bring you through?
Yeah, I bet it just takes you through it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Either way, I'm interested. Because then if you have already ran the other, you could just start off at like level 5 or whatever and just keep going.
Yeah.
Really quick, I realized that we didn't give any smack talk to our work associate, Carl, in this episode yet. Or last episode, I don't think. So, Carl, you suck. Also,
he rolls his dice on the table.
Oh, like a monster.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, it's dirty. I don't like it. He used to roll digital dice because he didn't like the physical ones. They were always rolling bad, and I don't think he does that anymore.
Yeah.
I appreciate the physical thing, but if you're gonna put the effort in to roll a physical dice, at least roll it into a tray.
Yeah, roll into a tray, man. Come on.
Okay.
I'm gonna make him one.
You should. Hopefully it doesn't land up in a landfill.
Yeah, right.
Dry erase mats.
Yeah, so this one is jumping past the starter set. So when you get a starter set, they do include maps, right? So you get some, like usable maps and stuff like that in there. And then you go into, Fendelver has maps in it, so I'm imagining Stormwreck has like 1 or 2 maps in it. But we'll see. But yeah, when you have maps, it's good to kind of give you an idea of where things are at. And a lot of times you don't have a map for a specific encounter, or you're going into something where it just makes a little bit more sense to have a visual aid for your players to see. And this is where dry erase mats come in. And they make them in all shapes and sizes. I mean, you can just use a blank white canvas with some dry erase markers. You can actually buy grid map ones. They have the standard, square grid, or if you're really filthy, you could use the hexagonal ones. But they're really good for being able to map something out. So if you have like an idea for a quick room setup, you can lay down a mat in front of your players and draw out a quick room at the 5x5 grid and really get you a better understanding of the layout of the room that you're in. If you really want to go super prep, you can, in advance to your game, draw out entire dungeons and or caverns or buildings, castles, whatever it is on these dry erase mats.
But if you're waiting to see, what decisions and choices your players make, maybe it's not as linear as, I know they'll end up here. You can pretty quickly just, all right, there's a wall over here. You make sure everything, matches to scale. It's 5 spaces between here, and I'll use brown for the wall here. And there's some water here. I'll use the blue marker and just put a little blue circle here. You don't even got to fill it in, and boom, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, like, okay, this is all. Yeah, you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
Good to go. I had a player buy me this. His name was Kelly, R.I.P. And he bought me 2 of these dry erase mats. One that was already, dungeon tile colored, and the other was a little more, available for anything. It was just like white. And those helped me so much at first when we started out, because I was missing a lot of these other accessories. But even if I was using dice to represent monsters or players for that matter, it was dice on a gridded map that everyone could use to understand, okay, well, I'm describing the scene in via theater of mind, but you don't have to ask me your distance now, because you can just track the, every square is 5 feet, and then you could actually just see it on the table, and I could just draw these really quick and then just erase it when we're done and roll it back up, throw it in the tube, and put it in the corner of the room. It's huge. This is how we did all the games back in the day. It was a really big deal, and I was very thankful for it.
And if you want a little bit more detail than that dry erase, Matt, it brings us to pre-printed style dry erase things. There's a company out there that makes these things called the Book of Battle Maps, and they've got the little Book of Battle Maps, the big Book of Battle Maps, and the giant Book of Battle Maps. And what they are spiral-bound books that each have different size grid tiles on them for basically pre-printed encounters. So when you open up this book, you have a section of a beach, or you have a section of a forest or a campsite. You have ones that are specifically just dungeons, so they could have like multi-room dungeons, or you could have caverns or caves. There's even a town version that has, shops and stuff like that, and streets. And there's actually a nautical version, so you have ships and ocean settings and small little islands and stuff like that. So these are really cool. They run in price anywhere from like $10 for the little book all the way up to like $30 for the giant book, which is massive. It'll take up a nice portion of your table. But if you want something super quick, so like in the little book of battle maps, you can go to like halfway through the book, there's a simple campsite, which is literally a couple of trees, some bed rolls, and a fire, and like a carriage off to one side. And this is a super quick way to be like, I want a really quick encounter around this campfire, or I just want my NPCs to be able to, or my players to be able to put up their characters around in like their order that they are in a campsite, to have their little chat for the night or whatever. And this requires no prep. You literally just slap open the book on the table, throw your miniatures on it, or draw something extra on it, and you're Gucci.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is dry erase, so you can draw on it if you'd like. And the most amount of prep here, other than purchasing the books, is just knowing what maps you have, and it shows you on the back.
Yeah,
there's everything. You don't even have to flip through it. But as long as you know, okay, I've got this kind of thing. If we end up in this scenario, I'll whip out this book for this, and just open it up and bam. And they even have some, like I said, they have the big ones, the big ones you can lay down. They have a couple of like mid-sized books that actually come in pairs, where you can lay a page down by itself, or lay out the 2 pages, because they spiraled, and you lay out both pages together and they connect. Or you get volume 2 of the book, and there's matching sets that will actually connect to the other 2 pages, and you lay it all out, and now you have this massive map.
Yeah.
And it's like modular in that way, where you can expand it out if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool you get with it, and they're very like well detailed.
Yeah, they're super detailed and quite affordable.
They're very affordable.
And they're one of the coolest products I think I've seen in a long time for tabletop, just because it's so easy to slap it down on the table and have an instant visual representation of what you're trying to describe.
Mm-hmm. When I saw the mini ones, as soon as I saw the mini ones, I had to pick them up day one. Like $10 each?
Yeah.
100%. Not even a question.
So if 2D and dry erase isn't good enough for you, then you start moving up into the fancier world of 3D terrain pieces.
Ooh.
And you've probably seen some of this stuff in your local game store. One of the most popular ones is Warlock tiles.
Yes, this is actually the setup made by Wizards.
Yeah.
They, make and sell these, and it's the perfect. You've got your 1-inch grids. So everything is the 5 foot, perfect for D&D out the gate. They have little clips that connect each one to each other. They have everything from taverns to dungeons, caverns, caves, stuff like that. And you can make some very impressive terrain for not super cheap. We've left the realm of like honestly like very affordable, and this is all right. I'm willing to throw down a little bit of money to have something truly impressive.
Yeah.
That is going to last me for quite a long time. And I probably won't have to sell the house to buy it.
Yeah, Warlock tiles are not the budget-friendly thing, of course, but they are impressive, and they are the lower end of the 3D kind of bespoke dungeon-esque things. And really, we're now getting into a different zone. So like when you have your dry erase markers and your big book of battle maps and stuff like that, you're going to throw those down for a bunch of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't cost you that much. You have the cost of your big battle mat, or you have the cost of your little book that's like $10, or the big book, which is $20. You're going to use those a lot more often. When you hit to the stuff like Warlock tiles and the stuff we're going to talk about after this, you're not going to see these every single session of a game. These are the set pieces, right?
Yeah.
So these are those games where everybody's gathered in person. You're not on a Zoom call. You're all sitting around a table in a room or in a basement or in a shed, and your DM has prepared the big action sequence for the night. So the last time I played on Warlock Tiles was a prison setup, which was the prison from the Dungeons and Dragons movie. If you haven't watched the review, but yeah, if you do see that, you'll see Revel's End, and you'll see the Supermax, and we had a bit of a scenario in one of those when we played on Warlock Tiles, and it made that scenario much more immersive.
Yes.
Because then we could see these hallways and these rooms and everything like that, and it made the combat just that much more easy to dive into, basically.
Yeah, and I may have not been in the prison at the time, so I didn't get to participate with the tiles.
He got to see them, though.
I did get to watch.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable.
But yeah, so like I said, these are not things that you're going to see in every single game. These are the things that your DM's going to pop out for the big set pieces, right?
Word of caution and advice. If you do purchase Warlock tiles, I highly recommend spending the extra $1 and getting the easy clips.
Oh, easy clips. Whew.
I know some of the newer ones sets actually come with the easy clips. They also sell them separately for not a lot, not a ton of money. Definitely get some easy clips, because the basic ones that come with some of the sets are not easy.
Yeah, they're not easy at
to
all.
remove, and ooh man,
you're gonna break some fingernails.
So get some easy clips. Save yourself, the tearing the flesh and fingernails off your body.
Yeah, but if Warlock tiles aren't enough,
right,
and you want celebrity DM status, what do you do, Tyler?
You do want to sell the house, right? Step one. Second mortgage is not enough. You have to sell the house. You're probably going to be living with a friend, maybe a relative after this, maybe a shelter if they have enough room for you and your gaming table. And then you're going to go to dwarvenforge.com, and best case scenario, they're running some sort of sale, which usually
save
doesn't
those
happen,
dollars and dollars,
because usually what happens is they're just sold out of everything you want. But if you catch a restock, right, and you race all of the other rich nerds in the world, and you can buy the sets that you really, really have dreamed of getting, you're going to get enough pieces to probably set up like, a 6x6 inch battle map for like $700. And no, for real though, you can get some starter sets for a little over $100. You're not going to get into Dwarven Forge proper without spending at least a couple $100. I believe at this point we're probably a little bit over that, over the grand scheme of things with the lava and everything else. But oh man, they are chef's kiss.
Are they gorgeous?
They're so pretty.
Have you posted any of the scenarios on Instagram yet?
No, because the last time we used them, we weren't doing the podcast.
Okay, so I have pictures.
I have some as well, yeah.
So we'll throw some of those up so you guys can see some of the last set piece that Tyler designed for our last couple of games. I actually have some from the last few games. So
you always took
just
photos of
lava.
the sets.
I always took pictures of them. So we have some of the dungeon sets. We have a cave or two, and then we have the grand finale in the lava cavern, which, man, it's some impressive set pieces.
They are made of dwarvenite, so they're near indestructible. They also have magnetic bottoms, so if you stick them on steel plates and stuff, which they sell, or you can buy them, on Amazon yourself for fairly cheap, they there's no clips. You just magnet and stick everything like, together near each other. So it's very easy to like fly in a scene. Like, oh, and you guys end up in this battle, and you like pull it up from underneath the table or under a curtain. You're like, you lay it down on the table, and it's just easy to move around the room. You flip the whole thing upside down, and it's fine. And there's lighting effects, there's fog effects, just everything about it. The scenery looks very natural,
Yeah,
and has the 1-inch grid built into it organically. So if it's the cavern, there's like stones that make up like the spots for the grids, where you can move your players. And stuff like that. There's city streets that are very similar. The brick patterns, you could tell where the grid
you can
would
see
be.
where the grid is supposed to be.
And oh man,
they're truly very beautiful set pieces.
They're so nice.
Yeah, they're very nice. We make fun when we talk about how much they cost because they are a premium. So this, like I said, this is the high end.
This is the top of the line as far as I know.
Yeah, but
of purchasing,
having
terrain.
held them right and having played on them and everything like that, they truly are the highest quality that you're going to get. I mean, you would think about something like that. You spend the amount of money on it, you would want to treat it with kids' gloves. You could literally take one of these tiles and throw it across the room against the wall and not worry about it.
Oh yeah, the paint will be fine.
They are that well made, and that's not a joke. I mean, they are so well made that you literally can drop them. I'm pretty sure that you just store yours in a plastic bin, like Legos.
Absolutely, bins across the shed,
because you don't have to treat them with kids' gloves because they are so well made that you don't have to worry about them. So it's an investment that you can trust in. So, and again, not something that you're going to build your entire campaign on. This is going to be something that you're going to use for your big flashy set pieces, for your final boss, for that really big engagement or whatever it may be. Unless you have that Matt Mercer and Brendan Lee Mulligan money where you could just throw down an entire campaign worth of Dwarven Forge for a couple thousand.
Brendan doesn't even do that. He just has, Rick Perry just make it.
Yeah, just bespoke stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just straight up from scratch because Rick Perry's over there, making magic.
Yeah.
Now,
but yeah, good stuff.
One thing, if you do want to save a little bit on the Dwarven Forge, you can get it unpainted. And
you can do it yourself.
Do it yourself or leave it gray.
Yeah, but the painted stuff looks so good.
The painted stuff is amazing.
It's so good.
It matches every time because they painted it to spec. And that's the way to go.
Yeah.
It hurts sometimes because it'll basically double the price of some pieces, especially the more, the fancier stuff like the lavas and such, but it's like I said, it's really worth it when you just open it up and you could just set it up on the table ready to go.
Yeah.
Dwarven Forge.
Yeah, Dwarven Forge.
Whew. Now, one thing I threw into the run of show last minute, and I say this, we've only used it ourselves a few times, but when we have used it, it's always been very convenient. A digital map case.
Yeah.
And by this, for those who don't know, a digital map case is when you purchase a flat-paneled, high-definition television, and you build a wooden frame around it to, hold in the digital map. Wink, wink, the TV, and you put a little plexiglass over the top of it or whatever, and you can find maps on things like dungeonfog.com or just Google up animated digital maps or stuff like that. See where I said animated? This is the big one. A lot of your virtual books in D&D Beyond will come with the maps, the digital versions of the maps, and you can just load them up straight onto the TV, and you set it to scale, and it's already, have your grid on there and everything, and then boom, you don't got to print anything. You've just got a nice, beautiful colored map on your table ready for everyone to play on. Now, you get these animated maps, and that's where these really come to life. Because you can have your players crossing a bridge between two mountains, and maybe it's an ambush, and there's like fog going around, and there's birds flying across the screen. You've got the top-down view, and underneath the bridge, this 200-foot chasm, there's a rushing river going by, and you put the minis of the goblins that are shooting arrows at the adventurers, and it's got sound effects and everything, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's next level when you see that kind of animation on a map.
You just had to find the map or animate the map, or however you get your solution. There's a lot of these a lot of creators on Patreon. You can look up digital maps, digital D&D maps on YouTube, and find a lot of Patreon creators that you sign up for them and you have access to all these maps. There's also lots of free ones, or even applications and stuff you can get to make your own digital maps. I remember on one of our games, I took a map from D&D Beyond and went in and added in digital torchlights so that when the map was on, just typical viewing, it was cool. The torchlight's a little glowy. But then you could take the slider and switch from day to night, and it would apply like a dark filter over the image in a very natural way. And then, whoa, now the torches actually are shedding light on this 2-dimensional map.
Yeah.
And it's cool what you can do with it. And you can only do that because you have this digital map on your table.
Yeah, and you've probably seen videos too. People have done chase scenes, so you have like a moving road and a cart with like a dragon chasing somebody, or carts chasing each other, and you actually have like the countryside rolling by, and it just really changes everything because it makes the whole experience so much more immersive. Or the ship on the ocean. I was gonna
say ship battles.
Yeah, ship battles where you actually have waves crashing up against the side of the ship, and it's really cool once you get into the animated maps thing, because you don't really think about how much it does affect things. But when you're sitting there in front of this map case and, you're on a beach and you can see the waves rolling in and you can hear the seagulls crying and see a crab like rustle down the beach, it's weird how much it puts you into the zone. The auto zone. But yeah, no, digital map case is not as expensive as you might think.
No, not at all.
TVs nowadays, flat screen TVs, really, really cheap, because you don't need, an expensive OLED television to build this thing. You just need something that has a decent panel that's a good thickness and a low weight, and then wood to frame it in.
Our panel here is and I should have gotten a smaller one. It is a 40-inch 4K Fire TV that I purchased a couple years ago on a Prime Day sale, and I believe I paid like $120.
Yeah.
Where is it on sale? Yes, but TVs are always on sale.
Yeah, TVs are always on sale.
And you're $120 in there. I think I spent like $30 on the acrylic glass across the top. You've got wood and everything else. Really, the wood makes it fancy and the glass makes it feel, you feel safer. You can just throw the TV on your table in some scenarios. You
can go low tech. And you don't really need anything fancy. The only thing you really need to make sure is that you have a way to input.
Yes.
So that's the most important thing, is I'm sure that a lot of you probably have an extra TV laying around somewhere that you could make into a map case. You just got to make sure that it has the ability to cast from whatever device you're using.
Via laptop or phone even.
Yeah, so some way to get your maps
or
out there.
Sharing, or you could even HDMI in from a laptop or whatever into the map case, whatever ends up being more convenient or reliable for you.
Yeah, but it is that stopgap. So it's not a dry erase board that's flat. It's not a the pre-printed map, and it's not Dwarven Forge. It's the in-betweener where you get a immersive looking experience and maybe a slightly bulkier package, but has some really great use cases.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, was there anything else you wanted to hit on for the DM as far as optional accessories?
No, I think we pretty much covered a lot of stuff. And like we said before, this is by no means stuff that you have to have, but it's definitely stuff that makes the game a lot more interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely, I think we've purchased all of these.
Yes,
at this point across the spectrum, and all of, we wouldn't be recommending something if it didn't make our game more enjoyable.
Yeah, and like I said, everything we've talked about today, we both have, had experience with and used. So it's not like we're just making this stuff up. This is all stuff that we have used, and all of it has its merits. And it's all, like we said, stuff that you don't have to have, but a lot of it is stuff that is really fun to have, just because it does add a lot to the whole experience.
That's true. Well, in the meantime, I've been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we've been True Strike. Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and on YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. New episodes released every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike. Also, one more time, don't forget that we're going to be sharing the link to our Amazon list on our Instagram page and on Twitter. That is Instagram and Twitter at True Strike Pod. Take care, everyone. See you next week. So, Richard,
Another
to warm
joke.
things up, I asked Bard while I had it pulled up if it could tell me a Dungeons and Dragons joke.
Okay.
It gave me 3.
Oh, overachiever.
So first, why did the Bard get kicked out of the tavern?
Why?
He was barred.
That took way too long for me to get.
Why do you call... Sorry, let me start over. What do you call a half-horse, half-human monk?
What?
A Zentor.
That one was good.
Last one from Bard. Why did the wizard fall in love with the vampire?
But why?
Because the wizard was a necromancer. Necromancer.
Okay. I want to make a centaur monk now.
This is how this starts. A Zentor.
I'm calling dibs on the centaur.
All yours.